bevo.com.
So, talking about limiting beliefs, you were once told when you were about to set up Coffee Republic that it wouldn't work because nobody would spend more than 60p for a cup of coffee in the UK, whereas I spend at least £100 each morning on my caramel macchiato with extra caramel with whipped cream. So, can you tell me about these limiting beliefs? How can you identify these limiting beliefs in an organisation? How can you identify them, tackle them, and then deal with them head on?
Yes, I suppose identify limiting beliefs. It's all to do with, the more limiting beliefs come out of success in a funny way. Because when something works, then it just becomes your prison. Your success by definition works against you in a big organisation. Because then everyone's like, well, this works. As you said, why change it? So I think as long as you become aware of it, and I think, once you get out there, once you're just where the customer is, you can't possibly have limiting beliefs. Because limiting beliefs just live within the headquarters. That's where they are. And once you get people out there, much more customer facing, sort of in a way what entrepreneurs do, putting yourself in customers' shoes. I was speaking to IKEA, and their founder is obsessive about the stores. Apparently he goes once a week, every sort of Saturday, to an IKEA store. So he really role plays the customer. And limiting beliefs come because you actually lose touch with the customer. Because it becomes very us, the seller, them, the customer. But as long as you're out there, you realize actually there's no point because you see what else is out there on the high street. And once you're seeing it through the customer's eyes, which often is ourselves, but people really kind of have that separation, us the seller, them the customers, like a sort of alien body of people. No, they're yourself, they're your wife, they're your children, they're your sibling, they're your friends. And people really lose touch with that. And I think that's the whole thing about a big organization. It just becomes very much, you lose perspective.
Yeah, the danger is that sort of in 1974 somebody tried something in the organisation and it didn't work, and so then it enters into the training manual and it stays in the training manual for the history of time, and everybody's trained that it doesn't work. So it's like it becomes a major limiting belief in itself.
The other thing they do as well is they get obsessed with their competitors. So they think, oh well, it's us and it's them, and all they're doing is the competitor. So they're just obsessed with each other. They're all getting the same data and information because at this point, all they're doing is sitting in the office reading market research reports. And that's why, they say, watch out for the maverick behind you, because there's some entrepreneur out there who's not in the head office, who's out there in the customer, and then really seeing where the gaps are, really seeing where the opportunities are.
Yeah, because if organisations are focused on the competitor, then who's focused on their customer? I mean, it's like China. China could be leapfrogging you as we speak, so you've always got to be alert.
I read a wonderful speech by Steve Jobs, and he said it's almost the lightness of failure. Was sort of, when he left Apple the first time, he said the lightness of failure was sort of replaced the sort of heaviness of success in a funny way. And in a way, when you have got nothing, you're agile, you're light, you're looking around, you're sort of prepared. And sometimes that baggage in a large company can sort of weigh them down. And they must be careful because you don't want your success to work against you.
It's obviously harder as a CEO as opposed to an entrepreneur because you've got sort of more things to manage. But even Alan Layton says you should do a day a week minimum with your customers and a day a week with your front-end staff. Is that something you would endorse as well? Yeah,
God, I'm such an extreme entrepreneur that I would just be the whole time, literally would spend 4 days. If I've done, with sort of Skinny Candy being out there in the supermarket, seeing how it sells, because it's only once you genuinely role play that, you genuinely go out looking for sweets and see what else is there. You sort of, just to a certain extent, you can't sort of fake it that much. For me with Coffee Republic, both Bobby and I still go, but every morning, we used to go every morning. So when you really go every morning, you see if the queue's too long, you see if, what the food tastes like, and then you see if there's an option if Starbucks offers something else, or if someone. And the problem is then, when people go out these little outings to go and look at the bars, it's such a fake environment. But if you really are the customer, it's the best way, because then you really get a perspective of what it's really like. And I'm surprised by how many executives forget to do that because they're so busy doing work in the head office. I remember we hired a marketing director at Coffee Republic, and he'd come from Nestle. And I was always thinking, oh, this is wonderful. He's going to come up with so many ideas. And I remember he actually once confessed to me that he hadn't managed to go to one of our bars for 10 days because he was so busy. And he actually used to go and get his coffee from Costa every morning because it was on his way to the office. And I, as an entrepreneur, would find that absolutely extraordinary. So yes, people forget about they sort of forget about that's what it's about really. That's where your money comes from.
But something like that just doesn't have the entrepreneurial mindset, do they? I mean, where you've just appointed a marketing director for Coffee Republic and they bring you a Costa coffee. I mean, that's just annoying, isn't it?
I just think it's sort of it's how corporates have always been. You see what I mean? You're judged by how you do it in the head office. It's just natural. By definition, the corporate structure we all become like that. Even I can see myself. You know, sort of you have to remind yourself to sort of withdraw from it. Basically, it's human nature, I think.
Bevo